special thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. My name is Brian Johnson. I'm the president of Nesa Medtech, and this is not a virtual background. So I've created my own little happy space in my home office. I'm so thrilled to join you today. Everybody has something in their job they're really passionate about, and I am extremely passionate about this Ignite program. This program is really dedicated to helping surround medtech founders with support and help from the medtech community. I love doing it. We've held so many master classes and fireside chats and pitch workshops, and we've engaged so many great people in the community. I can't wait to share that with you in a little bit, but I want to just today say from the bottom of my heart, first of all, thank you to the presenting CEOs and founders today. They worked very hard to get here, and I'm really excited to watch this. This is by no means the conclusion of any journey. This is just part of their incredible start, and we're all going to be hearing from these guys for years to come, and I'm really excited to help have been a part of their journey in some small way. I want to thank our sponsors, our corporate partners that help make sure that this program runs. They have put their faith in us, and we can never repay them enough with our gratitude. I want to thank Alira Health. I want to thank Boyd Technologies. I want to thank Propel. And I want to have a very special thanks to the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center for all that you've done for Ignite, for Nesa Medtech, and for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and our healthcare ecosystem here. It is a critical agency that we have in the state, and it's an embarrassment of riches that we even have this kind of office here in the state. And I want to also thank today our judges. These are our panel of experts that have come together and volunteered their time. They're from industry, they're from all over the globe. They're some of the smartest people in this space, and I'm very excited to hear their comments today, and then finally, at the end of the show, to give away some hard-earned prizes. Although what we like to say is, participation in Ignite is kind of a prize in itself. To be able to have this kind of camaraderie, community to surround these ventures is invaluable. And as a former startup CEO myself, I really wish I had a program like that. I probably could have helped me avoid a couple pitfalls along the way. But my pleasure right now is to introduce Mr. Ken Turner. He's the president and CEO of the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. Ken started, I believe, about maybe 8 weeks ago, and it's been an incredible journey, both to get to know him, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with the agency. So Ken, please, I'm going to cede the floor to you, and then you can introduce our first contestant.
Thank you, Brian, and good morning, and thanks for that kind introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to represent the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center and to offer a few words ahead of what I know will be an exciting afternoon for all of you as you go through your pitches in what is indeed a cohort representing the next generation of medtech founders and entrepreneurs here in the Commonwealth. Again, I want to thank Brian and the team at Nesa Medtech for inviting me to be part of today's festivities. But equally, I want to thank them for the contributions that they've made and continue to make to the medtech space and our broader life sciences ecosystem. One of the things I'm most looking forward to is to continuing to build upon the strong partnership between the Science Center and Nesa Medtech in the coming years during my tenure. Most of you know that I'm fairly new to my role, as Brian mentioned, but what has struck me already about this community that I've joined is its collaborative spirit and the ability to come together to network, partner, share ideas, and be a collaborative force for good. You don't have to be a life sciences expert to understand that the power of coming together is a force multiplier, as we used to say in the military. And make no mistake, what we are doing today is not just simply hopping on a Zoom call to hear about some interesting companies. We're here to connect, to be inspired, and to ultimately be a collective force for good in driving healthcare solutions. The companies and judges participating today, I know, are ready to embrace this call. In fact, to everyone attending, whether you know it or not, you've embraced that call as well. I will admit my bias in that one of the judges is Jennifer Griffin, Vice President of Industry Strategy and Investments for the Center and part of my leadership team. I want to thank Jen and her peers who are serving as judges here today for offering their time and collective expertise in today's Ignite event. To our companies pitching, don't worry, I'm almost finished and we'll get to you soon. But let me leave you with a couple of closing thoughts, if I may. As I continue my education on all things life sciences, it is already clear that you cannot tell the story of how successful Massachusetts has been as part of the global hub for the life sciences without telling the story of the impact produced by our medical technology companies and anchor organizations like Medtech. Furthermore, it's evident to me early in my tenure that perhaps the secret to all of the success here in our great Commonwealth continues to its continued support for emerging startups and creating and sustaining an environment for entrepreneurs and for their ideas to flourish. The Massachusetts Life Science Center has a number of tools that we deploy in order to continue to support these opportunities. Let me share with you just a few of them. An active seed fund providing investments to early stage companies in targeted locations across the state. A talent pipeline supported through a robust workforce development strategy providing internships, lab training, and other STEM-focused opportunities. And additional early stage supported specifically for women-led entrepreneurs through our MassGen initiative. And it just so happens I have the pleasure of introducing one of our MassGen entrepreneurs who is participating in the Ignite program this morning. But before I do that, to all of the companies taking part today, I wish you luck, not just today, but as you move forward on your respective path towards driving solutions in the medtech space. The current times we are in shine a bright spotlight on Massachusetts, on the life sciences, and on your potential to improve patient outcomes. Know that you have a partner in us in this endeavor. Now on to the pitching. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Carmela Mascio from LivOnyx. We are proud here at the center to have supported Carmela and her team through our Mass Next Gen program. And I believe I'm correct in stating that Carmela is our Ignite People's Choice winner as well. Carmela, good luck, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much for your kind words and the introduction. Hopefully you can all see my screen.
We can.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Carmela Mascio, and I am excited to share our story with you today. Long before the pandemic, the LivOnyx team has valued infection prevention. In fact, we got our start as members of a stealth infection project at Cubist that was launched after the senior VP had the crazy idea of wanting to invent something like a Dyson Airblade, but instead of just drying hands, we would clean them, and he asked me to co-lead the effort. In a short amount of time, we developed novel assays and spoke to numerous hospital workers to understand the hand hygiene problem. As we were making exciting progress, Cubist was acquired and all of the research operations shut down. Members of the original team and I continued to think about the patients, nurses, and doctors that we were going to help and decided to finish what we started as a standalone company with a new technology. So I'm here with my amazing team who are experts in clinical microassay development, engineering, microfluidics, user experience, and design, while being mentored and championed by an incredible group of advisors, all former Cubist executives, with Mike Bonney, the former CEO, as our lead investor. So as a microbiologist, when I look at hands, I see more than 15 million germs. And I think about how hands under some circumstances can be silent killers with a simple touch. Particularly highlighted during today's pandemic, we are all acutely aware that hand hygiene is incredibly important, yet it is unknowingly done poorly, leaving parts of the hands ripe to pass on germs. So it's no surprise that 1 out of every 25 patients that go into the hospital come out with an infection they didn't have to start with. Our misuse and abuse of antibiotics has inadvertently created resistant superbugs that are increasingly more difficult and more expensive to treat. Like Clostridium difficile, found on the CDC's urgent threat list. It affects more than 500,000 people each year, and its spores, which are not killed by hand sanitizer, can survive on surfaces for more than 6 months. And now, in addition to no longer reimbursing hospital-acquired infections, CMS is penalizing low-performing hospitals, creating a financial motivation for hospitals to invest in infection prevention. That's where LivOnyx comes in. Healthcare workers and infection control practitioners are excited about what we're doing and need something more efficacious, safer, faster, and fully automated. Shown here, the combination of our antiseptic with our patented thin spray method completely kills bacteria in just 3 seconds, where 70% alcohol does not. And given our activity against the incredibly robust C. diff spore, we have every reason to believe that we'll have activity against viruses like norovirus, SARS-CoV-2, and any future dangerous germs. By addressing all of the things that previously got in the way of good hand hygiene, the LivOnyx system is positioned to become a more effective, safer, faster, new standard of care. Our initial product launch will focus in U.S. healthcare, including acute care hospitals, long-term care facilities, and nursing homes, with the potential to scale to other U.S. markets anywhere the transmission of germs is a concern, like food processing plants, schools that want to reopen, and cruise ships. We're also pursuing global patents for our thin spray technology, allowing for future impact abroad. The market is clearly large, but let's focus on acute care hospitals alone for the moment. We know that mobilizing change in hospitals can be challenging, so we're going to make this as easy as possible. We'll provide a more effective, safer, faster option for what hospitals are used to paying for already for alcohol. And we'll give the thin spray we'll give the device away at no charge. With a 90% profit margin on the antiseptic and large volume sales, the revenue potential is very attractive at hundreds of millions of dollars each year in hospitals alone. And that revenue potential increases significantly when factoring in other healthcare settings or other markets. Since our founding, we've raised $1.5 million, with funds having gone towards developing a deep understanding and expertise in hand hygiene and infection prevention. We've patented our thin spray technology, and we've demonstrated our antiseptic is non-irritating and kills C. diff spores and other superbugs in just 3 seconds. We are incredibly grateful for the support of our amazing network. We've accomplished a lot, but we're not done yet. With Series A funding, we'll be able to build a clinical stage prototype, perform IND enabling studies, have a pre-sub meeting with the FDA, and further develop our antiseptic with the help of key hires. We are actively looking for investors who share our passion for saving lives, embrace going against the status quo, and value diversity and inclusion. We can't wait to meet you and join clean hands to save lives together. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carmela. That was great. I want to welcome and introduce Ashley Wittorf. She is the resident operating partner at Revival Healthcare Capital, and the judge assigned to Carmela and LivOnyx to ask a few questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Carmela. Great job. So nice to be with you this morning. It's now morning here in Singapore too. So Carmela, can you share with us all who you think some of your most valuable partners may be in this venture?
Yeah, thanks, Ashley.
Forward.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. That's a great question. So a little bit more about the device. Our intention is to have the internal components of the device be flexible enough to provide different form factors for use in different settings. You can imagine use in an ER versus an ICU or a general hospital ward will be different and will look different. So for example, if we have a form factor that attaches to the bed, we could partner with someone like Hillrom or Stryker, who are known for making hospital beds. Or we could partner with companies who are currently in infection prevention, but only in the room disinfection side. So companies like Xenex or BioQuil. Or we could partner with companies who are already in the hand hygiene space. However, they would like to offer a superior product in the healthcare setting. So that could be someone like 3M or Gojo or PDI healthcare, Steris, that kind of thing. And because of the pandemic last March, Dyson actually shifted some of its focus and made 15,000 ventilators. And so if they would like to stay in the hospital setting, we would love to partner with them.
Great. You certainly have a lot of options and some great white space to work with. Is there one that you think you'll pursue first based on looking at the hospital acute care setting as kind of your first place of entry?
Yeah, so you could imagine, we know mobilizing change in the hospital is difficult. So targeting the areas in the hospital where your patients are at most need, so like the ICU centers, we can imagine going in there first, anywhere where C. diff is a concern in particular. And so we could target that initially and then expand out to other healthcare settings beyond the hospital, like nursing homes, long-term care facility, dialysis, really anywhere that infection prevention is a concern.
Great. And is there, as you think about testing this device as you design it as part of the Series A raise, one thing certainly to think about is validating the delivery of the is it LVNX1? Is that the formulation? Okay.
Yeah, we just call it LVNX001 until we come up with a proper name for it.
Yeah. So one thing to consider too is a compliance device to make sure that people are using it, or how to really build in a system that will make sure healthcare providers are doing that. Is that something that you've thought about as well?
Absolutely. So you could imagine that we'll have different iterations being rolled out at different times. And so our first need is to get the device into the hospitals and get people using it to do what we can to reduce the hospital-acquired infections. But you could imagine us incorporating compliance monitoring and building the infrastructure, or partnering with someone like Clean Hands or Clean Care or Safe Hands, who already have those kind of tracking and monitoring systems, and kind of offering that on a subscription basis to hospitals. So certainly there's lots of room for expansion, but right now it's hyper focused on getting this out into the hands of the people that need it.
Great, thanks. Helen, are we already out of time?
I think we are, unless it was
okay.
a pressing question, but that was great. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Great job, Carmela.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Our next presenter is Dr. Todd Astor, and he is the founder of Biomembretics. Todd?
Great, thanks, Helen. I'm trying to share my screen here.
Absolutely. Here we go.
All set?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great, great. Well, thank you. My name is Todd Astor. I'm the founder and CEO of Biomembretics, where we're trying to engineer the future of organ failure. Many of our vital organs, such as our kidneys and our lungs, share an important common feature. They are our body's natural filters. Our kidneys filter solutes, electrolytes, and water, and our lungs filter oxygen and carbon dioxide. So it's not surprising that when these organs fail, the results can be catastrophic, as we've seen time and time again during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm a physician who's taken care of patients with organ failure for over 20 years. And although we've had devices such as hemodialysis for patients with kidney failure, ECMO for patients with lung failure, progress in this technology has been quite disappointing. The reason for this is that these machines are replacing the filtering capabilities of our organs. And at the core of these filtering machines is in fact a membrane filter. But unfortunately, until now, these membranes have been designed for the purpose of the machines themselves, not the human body. Their artificial hollow fiber structure has led to ineffective filtering, poor biocompatibility, limiting the versatility of the devices, leading to poor survival and high costs. Well, Biomembretics is set out to change all of this by using a precision three-dimensional blood circuit to mimic the blood flow in these corresponding organs, transforming the filtering efficiency and biocompatibility of the devices, leading to improved survival, reduced costs, and tremendous opportunity for in-hospital and outpatient devices. Biomembretics' path to commercialization is quite straightforward. I've been working with the world-famous Draper Laboratory for the past several years in the development of this technology. And now my company is licensing the global intellectual property to develop a versatile, multi-organ platform of membranes, capable of plugging into a whole spectrum of organ failure devices, commercializing first for the kidney, then for the lung, and then exploring other opportunities. The kidney membrane uses a physiologic channel branching and triple layer structure to create a uniform low pressure blood path and fully convective filtration, identical to that we see in the human kidney, in overcoming two of the major obstacles with current technology, blood clotting and poor performance. The membrane has been scaled to a prototype that is capable of handling the blood flow of a human adult patient and has been validated in vitro in animal models. This promises tremendous advantages for patients, less impact on heart and blood pressure, the ability to use smaller catheters for the patient, patients spending less time on dialysis, and less impact on clotting, bleeding, immune system, requiring fewer blood thinners and blood transfusions and fluids. This also confers tremendous advantages for the healthcare system as a whole. Whether it be for in-hospital or home use, cost benefits will be seen for all of the stakeholders across the spectrum, whether from cost-based or value-based reimbursement models. As the kidney membrane is advancing through clinical development and commercialization, our lung membrane is advancing through preclinical scaling and testing, with early results that are so exciting that they've piqued the interest of the US Department of Defense to the tune of a $5 million grant to cover the entire preclinical development of the program. The early data on the lung membrane is astonishing, with a 4 to 5 times higher oxygen transfer efficiency than any current membranes on the market, 150 times better than the human lung itself. The kidney and lung membranes create an expansive target market, with 3.4 million patients undergoing dialysis and a market projected at $100 billion over the next 5 years, and almost 10% of that market revenue goes to membranes alone. And with millions of patients requiring mechanical support for lung failure, projecting to a potential market of $10 billion, and in this case, 40% of that revenue goes to membranes. The timeline for the development of these membranes is quite complementary. We're seeking $2 million in seed money to advance our scaled kidney membrane to first-in-human trials, where the lung membrane is completely covered by the $5 million grant from the government. All of this is the result of a pioneering collaboration, bringing my experience in organ failure and transplantation, and as a leader in building clinical and research centers, both in academia and in industry, together with Dr. Jeffrey Bornstein, the original inventor of this technology and one of the world's experts in microimplantable devices, coupled with expert industry advisors and collaborators in engineering, hemocompatibility testing, large animal testing, manufacturing, and corporate IP law. The company and technology have already been validated for a number of sources. I mentioned the Department of Defense and Draper, MIT Technology Review, and of course, participation in the IGNITE program. All of this translates into Biomembretics having a true competitive advantage in bringing this life-saving technology to the market, and most importantly, to our patients. Thank you.
That was great, Todd. Thank you so much. I'd like to now introduce our next judge, Peter Stebbins. Peter is the Vice President of Business Development Medical Devices at Johnson & Johnson Innovation Center of Boston. Peter, you may be muted.
There we go. Hey, it's Todd. Congratulations, some really exciting exciting work, and sound like a good team you've got working on this. And it seems like it's an area where the technology could be overlooked in terms of improvements around the membrane. You check a lot of things we're looking for in terms of it's a platform, which is nice. Certainly, unfortunately, organ failure in these spaces and these types of processes and procedures are going to have to increase over time. So that's a sweet spot. And then the notion of potentially being nice Intel inside in terms of applying your technology it could be great. As I look at it, two questions I'd like to get into, and one is kind of on the earlier side, more on the protection side. Can you talk a bit more about the IP or not the IP, but just kind of how this is so protected and why others haven't necessarily gone down a path of going this way? Because again, you kind of frame it as this very simple, no one's worked on it in 20 years, kind of hollow filter, and now we've all of a sudden come up with this great idea. in a multi-billion-dollar space. I'm just trying to understand kind of what, what's out there relative to others trying to invent in that space and how protected you feel.
Sure. So as you mentioned, it's been several years, several decades since really there have been those truly impactful change in the core of these organ failure therapies, which of course is the membrane. And a lot of work has been done on the hollow fiber membrane sort of to chip away at some of the functionality with regards to some of the high flux dialyzers, for example, medium cutoff dialyzers, but none of it has actually replaced the core, the hollow fiber structure. So the work on the microfluidics has gone on at Draper Laboratory for several years and actually branched off from some of the early micromachinery work in the NASA program, actually. And so this work had some early roots and has been transferred over to this setting. And over the course of the last decade, started out from a kidney application and has grown to these other organ applications. And over that time, the intellectual property has been established along the way, both from the microfluidic design itself, but also through the applications to these different organ failure entities, both in the United States and in Europe. So the protection goes to the microfluidic design itself. It goes to the applications, and then it goes to a number of other additions that have been made along the way. And the nice thing about this platform, it's not a pipeline in the true sense of pipeline, because the platform shares the same technology, whether it be for kidney application, lung application, and some of the other organs that we're looking at. And as we move forward, for example, in the lung development, we're sharing some of the additional technologies that we're developing in the lung space and filtering it back to the kidney membrane, for example. So a lot of the technology advances in IP, foreground IP that we continue to develop can then be applied back to some of the other advances that we already made in the other organ applications.
Thank you. And then another question I have, looking down the road a little bit more, is the notion of reaction. So how will this play out? Again, we got to kind of follow the money. You have incumbents out there, and as you said, they've been kind of tweaking their hollow fiber, making some progress. But if I understand from your presentation that you're planning to really replace just the filter part of those systems which are already in the field, which is I think great. But I'm trying to understand how you think the dynamics may play out in terms of that model. And then also just from a cost perspective, I don't necessarily see the DRG or the payments kind of expanding, and so would this be you'd expect potentially more payment for the space, or you would expect for this product to be just better at a higher price, but better, so they'll take share, or you'd be able to commercialize it at similar to what the incumbents are doing? And get them back in my mind, I'm trying to understand why they have moved away from hollow fiber already.
Sure. Yeah, so our goal is to really become synonymous with the highest performance of organ failure devices. And you mentioned Intel. I think that's a great example. The Intel model, of course, was to use B2C marketing to really develop B2B relationships, with the idea that they would be in the computer business with microprocessors, which the idea would be that if the computers didn't have their microprocessors, then they wouldn't be at the highest level of functionality. Well, that's how we're looking at, our membranes. And the idea is performance, but performance that will translate into tremendous economic impact, cost savings across the whole value chain. And we're entering this at exactly the right time, as the reimbursement models are shifting from a cost base to a value-based system, particularly in the kidney world. I mean, this is a directive coming from the government. And so we think this is the opportune time to do that. And of course, we're targeting initially a B2B model with regards to the medical device companies, realizing that they may need to sell their products with our membranes in line, knowing that that's the highest performance. And for them, it will create an entirely new market of patients. Right now, we're only hitting the tip of the iceberg of the patients that can be helped with certain types of organ failure devices, ECMO in particular. And when you look at the millions of patients, for example, that are on mechanical ventilation and that could benefit from ECMO, but because of the poor performance of ECMO membranes, can't actually use ECMO, that's the drive for medical device companies to utilize our membranes in their devices. And on the other end of the end users, the hospitals, the outpatient clinics, the home therapy companies, it'll be clear to them where the performance benefits come, both from a patient standpoint, but also from a cost saving standpoint across the value chain. So I think there'll be a hybrid model for customers using a B2B approach, but with that B2B approach, approaching medical device companies and hospitals, outpatient clinics, et cetera, using clinicians as the true end user to drive a lot of the influence of these changes.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I could see a couple scenarios, one of which one of those guys want to just take you out and build on it. So congratulations, Dr. Astor. That's good stuff.
Great, thanks, Peter.
Back to you,
Thank
Helen.
you both. That was great. Thank you. Our next presenter is Or Zilbershot. Or is the co-founder of Walkky. Or.
Hello, everybody. My name is Or Zilbershot, and I am the founder of Walkky, an AI platform for cardiovascular diagnosis and prediction. So Walkky is dealing with the bio big data challenge. With
I'm sorry, Or, we're not seeing your slides.
Oh, you're not? One second. Is this better?
Yes, now we see them. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that. All right, so we are dealing with the bio big data challenge with hundreds of medical devices and hundreds of biosensors on the market. We get billions of data points that are collected on patients every day. How medical device companies make sense out of this data? They try to apply AI. There are a few challenges when applying AI in healthcare. It requires a huge amount of data that are often not available. It's too sensitive to changes and therefore breaks easily in practice. It takes a long time to bring AI solutions to the market, but maybe most of all, it is considered as a magic, something that is not explainable and therefore hard for doctors to adopt. While we don't care so much why Netflix algorithm decides we should watch one movie over the other, the doctor can't afford not knowing why the AI decides the patient is having an atrial fibrillation. So it is, AI is great in research, but mostly doesn't work in practice. And this is not just our conclusion. There are many respected resources talking about the broken promise of AI in healthcare. AI in healthcare is a big challenge, and we are focusing on AI in cardiology. Why cardiology? First is a personal reason. I am at risk myself because of a family history. Second, the gap between research and practice is unbelievable. You can see a summary of heart failure detection algorithms with accuracy of 98 and 100%, while in practice, heart disease is still the #1 killer. Bridging this gap is exactly what we do. So our solution is an AI platform for diagnosis and prediction of heart conditions. Our novel technology, Biosematics, requires less data, it is less sensitive to outliers, and more explainable. We will offer the solution via SaaS for fast integration, and it is personalized. So here is a snapshot from our demo. We created a heartbeat semantic map. Every node represents a unique heartbeat by its unique features. The different colors represent different heart conditions. When we analyze an ECG sample, in this case from an AFib patient, in addition to the conventional view you can see here on the top, we recognize each beat and mark it on the shadow map here on the right, here in yellow. It allows us to detect the heart conditions in a more robust and explainable way, but also to score the health of the heart, not just determine if it's healthy or sick. We believe that the heart doesn't suddenly break, it is a gradual process. And here we allow for the first time to see this evolution of the disease and even make predictions. We plan to engage with customers in two ways. One is SaaS. Medical device developers and researchers will use our services via one of the subscription options. And second is OEM, custom integration of our solution into the medical device product. We take as an example the deal between iRhythm and Verily for $12 million to develop FEB algorithms for their XioPatch device. Our market opportunity is in the junction between the cardiodiagnostics medical device market and the AI in healthcare market, which is currently estimated at 2 billion and expected to grow to 7 billion in 5 years. Our team comprises of leaders with extensive experience in all the complex aspects required to build a successful company, including product, software, business, sales, and marketing. Our medical advisors include heart surgeon from Beth Israel Hospital and Harvard Medical Faculty, a cardiologist from MGH, and the chief medical officer of BioSerenity, which is also a potential client. We also have a proven record of successfully bringing new technology to the market. One example is a novel semantic technology we developed that beat IBM Watson in 2 out of 2 benchmarks. This is where we are today. Most recent and exciting news for us is we are engaging now with BioSerenity, a medical device company, to perform a pilot using their device and our software at the Beth Israel Medical Center to validate our technology. We hope to leverage this venture into a successful fundraising toward the end of 2021, so we could empower medical device companies with our practical AI solution and improve patients' lives. The Ignite program had a remarkable impact on Walkky. Besides the countless lessons learned and intro emails, we also gained confidence and clarity in our journey. We are humbled to be part of this program and the Ignite cohort. Thank you all and good luck.
Great. Thank you, Or. That was wonderful. And now I'm going to welcome Jeffrey Champagne. He is the General Manager for Emerging Categories at Kohler Company, to ask a few questions of Or.
Thanks, Helen, and thanks, Brian and Rachel, for having me today. Or, great presentation. Thanks for sharing. So I've got some questions for you, and I'll put you on the spot, and then I'll throw you a softball as well. But can you please explain, Or, how biosemantics reduces the need for excessive data? Why is that? It's a bold statement, but why do you need less data to get the same results?
Right. It's a good question. So we are the core idea behind the biosemantics is the semantics. I'm coming from the natural language processing world. Mainly in my career, I build solutions for the intelligence community, where we really try to find this little important information out of huge amount of unstructured text. And basically, there are 2 ways to do that. The proper statistics, where you take a lot of text and blend them together and mathematically find what's important. And the second one is the semantic. Semantic is try to really understand the meaning of the words, and by that find your higher conclusions that you want to do. And what we saw with all those amazing researchers in the cardio and ECG is the pure statistical one. And what we are trying to bring is the semantic, the real understanding and a deeper understanding of the signals itself. We kind of look at the ECG as a kind of a language and apply the similar techniques. And to the point of your question, when you build this semantic network, this semantic predefined data, so it helps you to really capture the meaning of the in this case, the heartbeat. In previous cases is the words. And when you know the meaning of that, so then you need less new data to build good models.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Or. And you mentioned a number of different potential stakeholders. One, medical device companies. 2, these clients in providers, and then also the patient and biohackers that are going to try and figure out what does this mean for their lifestyle. Can you talk about the key stakeholder in the adoption of this system, and who are you aiming this at for your primary? Sounds like the medical device community, but can you talk a little bit about stakeholders?
Right. So definitely the medical device community. This is the first. We were talking with several We had direct communication with 3 companies, all very common problems. So they're doing the hardware, and we believe that it's very hard to be excellent in both hardware and software. And this is where we want to bring our expertise to them, so they can capture the signals very well. And with our technology, they can go to market quickly with all the aspect of the software. Other stakeholders can be doctors and even biohackers. I mentioned biohackers for the future. It's like now we gain more and more information about our health, and we often ask Dr. Google about symptoms. So I believe in the future, while we gain even more information in our possession, the patient will have more access to their ECG test results. So it also for the further future can be, our technology can be a SaaS platform for them to investigate deeper what is the meaning of those signals.
Excellent. Thanks, Or. And lastly, how simple is the integration of this into an existing device, right? How simple is it? Is it all hosted on the cloud, or how do you integrate?
Right. So we are still in development stages, and this is why I mentioned it's so exciting for us to now partner with this first company to see how it really works in practice and show the value. But the vision for it is to start by integrating our solution to each product and customer. Everybody has its own needs, and we are very aware of all those integration difficulties. But with time, to build this general platform that we will be able to access and to give by SaaS. So it's the general stuff, the things that everybody needs to make them accessible for many users to start integrating and use those services very, very simply.
Excellent. Thank you, Or. Those are all the questions I had today.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much to both of you. Our next presenter is Jean Pham. Jean is the co-founder of Cellens.
Thank you. Helen, let me share my screen. Okay.
Perfect.
Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Awesome. So hello, everyone. My name is Jean Pham. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cellens. I'm here today to share with you a story. Imagine waking up one day and then seeing blood in your urine. What could it be? Could it be a UTI or something else? Turn out that having blood in the urine is one of the most common symptoms of bladder cancer, the 6th most common cancer in the US. We met with John, a bladder cancer survivor, who told us that it is even more terrifying to see blood in his urine again and again, even after his initial treatment. So we dig a little bit deeper and found out that what makes bladder cancer so difficult to monitor is because of its high recurrent rate. 50 to 80% of those with bladder cancer will see it recur again and will need to go through an invasive and expensive lifetime surveillance schedule. But the cost is just one part of the problem. To find lesion and tumor, patient will have to go through an invasive procedure called cystoscopy every 3 to 6 months. For a male patient, it is essentially putting an endoscope through the penis and into the bladder to visually inspect it. And ouch, it does hurt as it looks. And there could be some complication after the procedure, such as UTI, perforation as well. So we create one test that will replace all of that. Cellens is developing a high-performing, non-invasive bladder cancer detection test. All we need is a cup of voided urine sample that the patient will need to give anyway every time they go for a checkup at the urologist's office. It is so easy and convenient that they can even do it from the comfort of their home. We extract the cell from the urine and then scan them with atomic force microscope. We then use machine learning algorithms to detect cell from active cancer versus non-active patient cancer. The market for US oncology diagnostic space is actually huge. We'll start by selling our test as a lab-developed product to urologists who will be able to extend their service through remote monitoring tests and enabling at-home and in-office collection. With the rise of minimally invasive procedure, telehealth, and an aging populations, the demand for our tests will keep growing exponentially. We'll also expand our market by adding other types of urologic cancer to our test menu as we scale. We validated our technology with leading physicians from multiple cancer institutes. The results were very promising. We have achieved a 94% accuracy compared to the current standard of care, which is 74%. Our patent pending technologies is based around the method of using AFM imaging and machine learning algorithm. Obviously, we are not the only one who thinking about doing urine-based tests for bladder cancer, but looking at the current landscape, we are the most accurate and reliable options. Other commercial tests are not being used commonly because of its high false positive rate. Our overall go-to-market strategy is to focusing on collaborating with high-volume key opinion leaders who are urologists at leading cancer institute. We'll publish our data on top medical journal in preparation for our reimbursement. Currently, Cellens is supported and advised by clinical doctors who have many years of experience treating bladder cancer. They are the ones who understand this problem deeply, and that's why they're helping us to push this technology forward. Based on our calculation, we'll break even in 2025. After year 5, Cellens will either expand our service by licensing it out to a big national lab or going to market outside the US. As you can see here, the $2.2 million grants from the NSF and Dartmouth Cancer Institute helped to de-risk our technology significantly. In 2020 alone, Cellens won over $100K in cash prize from business plan competition and state grants. Currently, we are focusing on closing our convertible note round from angel investor and applying for government grant. Cellens team combined experience from both the commercial and scientific funds. Before Cellens, I was the youngest global entrepreneur in residence at UMass Boston Venture Development, raising $500,000 running one of the biggest startup competition for Vietnamese founded startup. My technical co-founder, Dr. Igosoklo, is the inventor of this technology and have more than 30 years of experience with AFM and nanotechnology. I know I run out of time, but I just want to give a big shout out to the Ignite organizers and judges and mentor. We couldn't make it here without you guys, from a engineering-based student team to a fully functional young startup that's trying to change the standard of care. It is an amazing journey, and thank you so much, David Ufer and Anh Hoang, if you are on the call for your mentorship, and I'm here to answer any question.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Jean. That was wonderful. Let me introduce our next judge. She's the Vice President of Industry Strategy and Investments at Massachusetts Life Sciences Center, Jennifer Griffin.
Thank you. And thank you, Jean. That was really well done. You've clearly spent a lot of time thinking about how best to focus your technology on the market. And it's really interesting. I have a couple of questions. One is around, and this is, I just don't know the answer to this, but how are urologists currently compensated for performing that cytoscopy? And granted, I can totally see the benefit from a pain perspective, but are you at odds with their financial motivation to perform certain procedures over prescribing very simple diagnostic tests? And does that change based on who you're talking to, whether it's a KOL or a high volume urologist in a local area?
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for such an excellent question. And I think we come across many doctors through our market research. We interview 100 of them through the NSF ICOR program to really validate and see if they have problem with cystoscopy. And our value prop, and when we talk to these urologists, obviously they get compensated for doing the procedure, and urologists, both community and big cancer institute, are very comfortable with this procedure, doing it for more than 100 years. So not gonna completely change that for how they do it, but we talk to them and understand that 75% of those with bladder cancer are actually low grade, meaning that they have 5% of active cancer every time they go to do a cystoscopy, and doctor will still have to do it even though the result gonna turn out to be negative. They still do it every 3 and 6 months. That costs a lot of money for the healthcare system, and it doesn't really change the protocol or help to improve the patient life. That is why they think that if they can have a test that rule out these patients who have negative Cellens test, and then brings like those with positive Cellens test for cystoscopy, so they can do a confirmatory procedure with random biopsy event to confirm that they actually have active cancer. That will actually help doctor not to be overloaded with so many bladder cancer patients, and doesn't change their quality of life, which is something that doctor care a lot, and why they want to support us with this non-invasive test.
Great. And so the other question I have is, I don't know anything about atomic force microscopy. So can you speak a little bit to how scalable that is? How fancy and expensive is that piece of equipment? And therefore, how does that, impact how you can scale doing this? And I think one other related question is, are you providing a binary result, yes or no, that cancer is present and metastatic? What kind of information are you actually providing with the atomic force microscopy?
Right. So there are two questions. One is about AFM. AFM is the youngest microscope out there. The advantage of that is because it has nanoscale, like really high quality nanoscale imagings that give us the kind of information that we wouldn't be able to get with optical microscope. And that's why urine cytology, when they do the optical microscope, most of the results turn out to be atypical, which doesn't add anything to the doctor. But with atomic force microscope, we can get the kind of information that differentiates cell from patient with active versus non-active cancer, and give us a really confident data set to use machine learning algorithm with. Because it's the youngest microscope, to be honest, it's expensive microscope, but what we done to make it commercially viable is to increase the speed of the microscope. We use a special attachment that help us scan really fast. Like I show like 30 minutes for the whole scanning procedure, which is incredibly fast, and make it commercially viable to use AFM as a diagnostic tool. Second question is about our result. So with the machine learning algorithm, we try to really narrow down what kind of question we want to answer, and then really focus on that by training our algorithms and then validate them on a large scale data set. That is why we provide like a probability of having cancer instead of like a yes and no. We compare our result with biopsy, which is right now is the gold standard for how people say they have cancer or not. But we have a probability score. If you are really high on that score, then you should likely to do a biopsy and get a confirmatory diagnosis of cancer.
Great. Thank you very much, Jean. I appreciate it. Nice job.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Excellent. Thank you both. Okay, our next presenter is Shrikar Kathamachu, who is he's the founder of Nesa Medtech. Shrikar.
Hi everyone, my name is Shrikar Kottamachu, founder and CEO of Nesa Medtech. I'm here to share a revolutionary technology to treat uterine fibroids. Uterine fibroids are benign tumors in and around the uterus. This leads to severe debilitating quality of life symptoms like prolonged menstruation, leading to emergency department visits for blood transfusion. Women with uterine fibroids undergo this every month. It is traumatic. It's a huge problem. 1 in 4 women suffer from this, and the incidence is much higher in women of color. And it has a significant burden on the ecosystem and also impacts their career. Meet these 3 exceptional women who have been doing excellently well in their profession, but they have one thing in common. They had to withdraw from their professional engagements purely because of fibroids. Let's understand the current paradigm. There are the surgical solutions which are extremely invasive in nature, needing a 12 centimeter cut on the abdomen or have high morbidities. And there are these non-surgical solutions which are extremely inaccessible, needing an expensive infrastructure like an MRI machine or a cath lab. And more importantly, you need an interventional radiologist who are very few in number. As the current solutions are either invasive or inaccessible, patients wait for good 3.6 years to seek a treatment. This is where, as a team, we were exploring various technologies on how to address this unmet need. This is where we came across an interesting technology called ablation, which had some really excellent results from an academic research space. But it was not primarily used in the clinical fraternity purely because of skill which is required to do the procedure. This is exactly what we do at Nesa, where we have developed a patented technology called Guide, which delivers ablation in any location of the uterus, which has 2 modules, a planning workstation which easily integrates to any ultrasound machine, which is commonly available at a gynecologist clinic, and the guidance system which operatively couples the ablation electrode. It has just 4 simple steps which reach out to any location in the uterine fibroids. This is not just a concept. All the critical components of the device have been already validated, and we have done our first in human studies where the results have been extremely encouraging, giving an assurance of precision of lesser than 3 mm. This is as a solution, as we are offering through natural orifice, it's less invasive, and because it's fitting rightly into the current clinical workflow, it has minimal training curve for a gynecologist to adopt to this procedure. It addresses the prime concerns of all the stakeholders. As the recovery time is faster, the employer would benefit. As the procedure time is quicker and has low morbidities, the hospitals would benefit. And as we leverage the existing ultrasound machines in the hospital, it's quite affordable. This is quite exciting. As procedures are increasing year on year, there's also a constant change in the paradigm of the treatment. In next decade, we would see ablation as being one of the main paradigm treatment, and Nesa has a great opportunity to benefit from this. All the critical aspects of the device has been already validated, design has been frozen, sample units have been manufactured, patent has been protected in key geographies. As we speak, we are currently preparing for our regulatory approval, which would enable us to start our initial sales in India. As we do that, we would be developing our generation 2 products specifically designed for US, where we would be looking at an FDA approval mid of next year through a 510(k) route. All of this would be possible with a strong multidisciplinary team, having multiple years of experience, taking multiple products from conceptualization to commercialization. We have a strong board of advisors who fill in the gap of our expertise. It's quite overwhelming where US Vice President-elect recently introduced a bill for uterine fibroids in the midst of the pandemic, clearly indicating this is a big unmet need to be solved. We at Nesa Medtech are dedicated to transform women's health and support millions of women to get back to their work as quickly as possible. Thank you. And I would be very glad to take up any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Shrikar. That was wonderful. So now let me introduce our next judge. He is the Vice President Global M&A Leader and Business Development at Olympus, Christos Monovoukas.
Thank you, Helen. And hello, everyone. It's good to be with you today. This is exactly why Olympus supports Mass Medic. for days like this. Srikar, hi. You and I had several discussions in the past. My quick question for you is, why would this new new device be more effective than other manual devices that are out there?
Right. So there are a couple of reasons. So when we talk about the manual process, so either there is a resectoscope where you use an electrical mechanism or a mechanical mechanism. So this has limitations, and specifically, so there are fibroids which are there in the cavity or which are there in the muscular region. So when you go through an hysteroscopic approach, you would be able to address the fibroids in the cavity, but not on the muscular. So you will have to go through an approach of a laparoscopy for that. So what we are suggesting is, when you go through the natural orifice, you will be able to address any kinds of fibroids through the natural orifice, predominantly avoiding a laparoscopic approach, which is generally done under anesthesia. And as our device has few very important characteristics where it can be just done under MAC, a local sedation. It would avoid cervical dilation, which means it can be just done under local anesthesia.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions unless somebody else wants to address Srikar.
Did anyone want to, was there an additional question? All right, then we'll move on. Thank you both.
Kirby has
Oh, I guess there is a question.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
The question is, OBGYNs make a ton of money, literally a ton of money, doing hysterectomies for the fibroids. What's the cost of your device? Because there's multiple components to it. And how much market research have you done to go out there and do customer interviews to confirm that the OBGYNs are really going to buy it or lease it if they cannot charge the same amount as the hysterectomy?
Thanks. That's a great question, and that's very important as well. So there are two parts to it. So what is the incentive for a clinician to move from a hysterectomy to a procedure like this? So currently, so there are two parts, because we come from the different part of the world. So here it's purely based on self reimbursement, and it all depends upon what a clinician gets from a procedure. So in in part of the place where we come from, so the clinician would still get the same money as he or she would get it from a hysterectomy. That's one incentive. And the second part about what happens when we start entering into US. So we have been doing certain reimbursement codes. We know that there are a couple of reimbursement codes which we could still leverage and see on how it would we could leverage from it. So there is definitely a potential of the clinician still benefiting from moving from a hysterectomy to our procedure. And definitely, again, the cost of the device is, because we are pre-commercialization, so we are still early, but I would definitely say the BOM cost of our device is very, very significantly lesser than the current solutions which are there.
Great. Thank you, Srikar. We're going to move on. Thank you. Our final presenter is Dr. Nicole Black. She is the founder of Beacon Bio.
Thank you so much, Helen, and thank you all for having me. I'm honored to be presenting at this event. It's kind of hard to believe just 1 year ago, I was still a graduate student and actually met Rachel at a Mass Medic event for women in med tech, and since then have now completed my PhD, and this program has been really instrumental in helping us launch our venture around this. So thank you so much to everyone for coming. So as Helen mentioned, my name is Nicole Black, and I am the co-founder of Beacon Bio based in Boston, Massachusetts, and we aim to turn up the volume on the eardrum with regenerative tissue grafts. The eardrum captures sound waves from the environment and transmits them to the ossicles of the middle ear. Importantly, the circular and radial architecture of the eardrum is crucial for enabling sound conduction at both low and high frequencies. Unfortunately, eardrum perforations are common, with approximately 30 million occurring worldwide each year. A majority are formed from chronic ear infections and traumatic injuries, such as pressure changes and cotton swabs. In fact, the #1 injury from the 2013 Boston Marathon bombings was chronic eardrum perforations, and many of these patients were treated by Dr. Aaron Riemenschneider, one of our co-founders. Leaving eardrum perforations open not only leads to hearing loss, but it can also allow water and pathogens to enter the middle ear space, causing serious problems. The treatment for a chronically perforated eardrum is tympanoplasty, which is a multi-hour surgical procedure performed under general anesthesia. In this procedure, an autologous tissue graft, typically fascia or cartilage, is harvested from the patient at the time of surgery and inserted via an incision behind the ear. We interviewed 52 ENT surgeons and discovered the top pain point with tympanoplasty was with manipulation and placement of autologous tissue grafts. Furthermore, even in the hands of skilled surgeons, tympanoplasty outcomes are imperfect, with an estimated 30% requiring at least one revision surgery. Thus, currently only 1 out of 9 patients with chronic eardrum perforations elect to undergo tympanoplasty due to the invasive nature of the procedure and poor outcomes with current grafts. Thus, we have developed an innovative device called Phonograft to improve graft placement by ENTs and to improve patient outcomes via a biomimetic architecture and biodegradable material. Our team's intellectual property includes an issued patent on circular and radial eardrum devices, as well as a pending patent on a novel biodegradable elastomeric 3D printing material that I developed during my PhD. As native cells grow onto Phonograft, the material degrades into non-toxic byproducts, replacing the synthetic polymer with native eardrum tissue in the architecture of the print path. Through ongoing studies, we have identified 3 major advantages to Phonograft. The first is with graft placement. Instead of spending time to harvest and manipulate autologous tissue grafts, a surgeon could simply open a sterile package, and our novel patented design could allow Phonograft to be placed in a clinic setting through the ear canal in an awake patient, rather than having them undergo general anesthesia. Secondly, we have performed studies in chinchilla models for chronic eardrum perforations and determined that Phonograft has higher rates of healing than both fascia grafts and Biodesign, which is the only non-autologous graft on the market for eardrum repair. This is likely due to the biodegradable nature of Phonograft that allows it to incorporate into native tissue, which could limit the risk of reperforation and revision surgeries. The third advantage is improved hearing outcomes. The circular and radial architecture of Phonograft allows it to vibrate well across the range of human hearing, improving sound conduction compared to both autologous fascia and Biodesign grafts, which do not have this structure and do not remodel. This could potentially allow patients to better perceive speech. In addition to the benefits of Phonograft for ENT surgeons and patients, we've identified key benefits for adoption by healthcare providers. Importantly, we identified the billing codes for eardrum repair and confirmed that these can be used in a clinic setting. Overall, Phonograft enables healthcare facilities to reduce overhead costs while being reimbursed for the same rate, and can also increase procedural volume. We have conducted conversations with medical device purchasing units and learned that ENT surgeons are the main decision makers for devices in middle ear surgery. As we have 2 highly regarded ENT surgeons on our founding team, we aim to first target our close connections in otology and neurotology before expanding to the 12,000 ENTs in the US. Within the US alone, we expect Phonograft to expand the market from the 160,000 patients who currently undergo tympanoplasty to the more than 1.4 million patients whose eardrums chronically perforate each year, leading to significant revenue. Worldwide, Phonograft has the potential to treat the 30 million chronic eardrum perforations that arise each year, leading to a large total addressable market. Our next milestone is to push toward 510(k) approval of Phonograft, and we've begun engaging with regulatory and manufacturing experts. Currently, we are seeking $2 million in seed funding to spin out of Harvard and bring Phonograft to market. Beyond Phonograft, we foresee additional markets for our technology and other soft tissue grafts where the structure of the tissue is important to its function, including a passive hearing aid device to augment the structure of the eardrum called Audiograft. We have developed a strong and interdisciplinary team over the past 6 years to solve these tissue engineering challenges. And we are very lucky to now include as part of our team in our mentorship, Dr. Ellen Sheets through the Ignite program. We've also engaged with strategic partners, including Cook, Stryker, and Baxter. Overall, Beacon Bio aims to provide a better solution for tissue repair, regeneration, and augmentation through our novel materials and manufacturing technologies, starting with Phonograft. And we hope that our products will enable easier use by surgeons increase procedure volume for hospitals, and provide better outcomes for patients. Thank you all so much for listening.
Okay. Oh, I'm unmuted. That's good. Okay. Thank you, Nicole. That was awesome. And now our final judge is Zachary Leach. He is an associate at Catalyst Health Ventures.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you to Mass Medic for letting me participate. Nicole, nice job. Really impressive platform technology. I think you're playing into some really good tailwinds in this sector. I'll start off with just a really simple question. So is this customized to the patient and like 3D printed, specialized to them? If not, why not?
That is a great question. So it is not, and this is actually a good thing because the FDA, it's actually a longer process to get patient matched devices approved or customized devices. So actually your eardrum is relatively similar person to person. And I can show you actually, basically everyone's eardrum is approximately 9 to 10 millimeters, but there are 4 different types of eardrum perforations. Sorry about that, ranging from usually grade 1 through 4. And so instead of customizing this for each patient, what you could do is simply biopsy punch a region of the graft that matches the region of your eardrum that is missing, and then place it in that fashion. And ENT surgeons are familiar cutting and placing grafts in this manner with, for example, the biodesign material that's already on the market. But that's an excellent question. Thank you so much.
Great. And then I noticed in your strategy, it's a 510(k) approval with a post-market clinical study. Can you just talk about some of the outcomes you're going to need to show to drive clinical adoption?
Yeah, great question. So we can go down the 510(k) pathway because there is, as I mentioned, one product on the market for eardrum repair called Biodesign. Biodesign was actually not designed for the eardrum. It was designed for hernia repair. And thus it has pretty poor adoption itself by ENTs that we've talked to because hearing outcomes are so poor. And so the outcomes that we would want to look at in clinical trials are really around these hearing outcomes. And luckily in human patients, it's much simpler to look at this. You can do a simple audiogram. In our chinchilla models, we can't ask them if they can hear at certain frequencies. So we have to do techniques called auditory brainstem response and distortion product otoacoustic emissions. The other major outcome that we want to look at is healing rates or perforation closure. So essentially, has the perforation healed? Usually the time point that's most relevant is 2 weeks, because that's the point at which the surgeon will remove the packing material and see if the perforation has closed. Great question.
Excellent. Final question would be, as you kind of touched on a number of different applications, maybe what are the 1 or 2 that you would say are the biggest opportunities or where you'd go next?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So really what I think a next great product after Phonograft would be is this device I discussed called Audiograft. And we've actually seen in our current studies that our grafts actually vibrate better than the human eardrum, and particularly at mid and high frequencies have a higher sound-induced velocity. And so with Audiograft, we see this potentially being a great device for people who might have high or mid-frequency hearing loss or mild hearing loss as an alternative to hearing aids. And the benefits of this are really threefold. Current hearing aids, they're an obvious disability. So if you can have something completely implanted that instead of amplifying the pressure of the sound waves can actually amplify the response of your eardrum to sound waves, that could be hugely impactful. Also, one of our team members has hearing aids herself and mentioned a lot of the environmental restrictions she's faced, not being able to swim and go to swimming lessons and hear her coach. And also, we've talked to a lot of patients with hearing aids that simply don't use them because of the maintenance required. And so we really see this as a nice next addressable market, particularly if we're already involved in the ENT space with Phonograft and have marketing channels there.
Fabulous. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Zachary. Appreciate it.
Excellent. That was fantastic. Thank you, everyone. That is our last presentation. And so now our judges are going to go off and deliberate about the 6 presentations that we just had today. And then we'll have some announcements while we wait for their decision. So I think Rachel is inviting all of the judges into a separate room. Rachel.
That's correct.
Yes, she's going to do that.
Okay.
And while she does that, Welcome back, everybody. Again, Brian Johnson, president of Mass Medic. This has been a really great hour and 15 minutes of hearing from 6 incredibly accomplished founders. And, you know, I think you can tell by those presentations, all of which were perfectly on time and done with a lot of clarity, that these men and women have worked very hard to hone their pitch. And, you know, it's one of the key sort of things that we like to work on here. You know, you're always pitching when you're a CEO or a founder of a
bit more realistic than others. So I'll be curious to see what people think.
Sure.
Hey, good morning, everybody. You guys are doing a great job. I'm still trying to find Christos because it looks like he may have disappeared, but you know, just a tiny bit of guidance in the next 10 minutes. We would just ask you to think about, from your perspective, you know, each company, the potential of the venture plus the potential of the CEO. Our prizes are, our first prize is $15,000, our second prize is $5,000, so it's not a ton of money, but where you all think that investment could be best used to kind of move the needle for one of these companies. Also, you each spent time getting to know one of your companies, maybe bring up some of the risks or red flags that you see amongst yourselves, and I'll go try to find Christos, and then I'll come back in a few minutes, and then we'll just take a vote.
And we have a total of 10 minutes, right, to make our final
Correct.
decision?
Yeah, you've got
Okay.
10 minutes. Brian's
Let's
talking to
start calling the
everybody.
herd. I don't know. We just kind of like, anybody thinks a couple are kind of weak, we just get rid of them.
Hey,
You guys,
Rachel,
yeah.
Rachel, on that note, just because of what you said in terms of who could actually put that capital to use, given the amounts, I know this is supposed to be kind of stage agnostic, but is that something we should really consider? Or
you know, I think as I was coming in, Peter was saying a few of them are a little bit further along. They may
Right.
make more use of the capital to move the needle. I would say I would think about it from a market potential and an opportunity potential, right? Like all of these companies have lines on other fundings. They're applying for SBIR grants. They're talking to potential funders and have some options. So I would say think of it very high level as, you know, the best opportunity, and if you think the CEO and can drive it forward.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be back.
Boyd Technologies, Gabrielle Brambilla from Alira Health, Ben Davis from Angiodynamics, Tracy Dodenhoff from BitSurf, An Huang from Sofragen, Kevin Longo from Silicon Valley Bank, Christos Monovoukas from Olympus, Owen Sanga from Alira Health, Marianne Picard from M2D2 at UMass Lowell, Bridget Ross from Chronosense, Mira Sani from Hylex Therapeutics, Aaron Sandusky from Norwich Ventures, Martha Shaden from Miak Orthopedics, Ellen Sheets, recently of Partners Innovation Fund. Of course, our co-host today, Helen Schick from Schick Communications, who's also our great coordinator of this whole program. Amy Siegel, who I see up in my little box there, from S2N Health, and then Chuck Sarin from Propel. That's our steering committee, and they've done a fantastic job helping us through this process. I also want to call out our mentors, Martha Shaden, Ellen Sheets, Odo Ansanga, Subdata, David Uffer, Amy Siegel, Neil Swami, Bridget Ross, An Huang, Neil Swami, Brian Lord, Dave Carey, Anthony Costin, Matt Boyd, and Bill Sedaris. All these folks volunteered their time, and their energy, and their expertise to help make a better cohort of companies. And I think they've done an amazing job doing that. So I just want to take a moment to thank them, along with our corporate partners, Alira Health, Boyd, Mass Life Sciences, and Propel. Now, before I announce the winners of the 3 sponsor prizes, I want to take a second to talk about the next cohort that we have coming up, our 2021 cohort. In about 2 weeks, on March 15th, we're going to open up the application process again for another group of companies. We're going to have that application process for about probably 4 weeks, and then we'll pick the next group, the next cohort to come with us on another journey. We're going to keep doing this over and over again. Even as we continue to support our alumni, we want to bring more folks through. And, we're excited that this year we're going to do some specialty programming with M2D2, and we're working on some other partnerships as well. But, we need more corporate support to help keep this program vital. I think it's a really valuable program to continue to work with. We encourage you, if your company is interested in working with the next generation of medtech startups, to contact us. And if you think that perhaps all these companies are early, let's go back to that first point I said. Those companies in our first cohort have raised more than $20 million in the past 12 months. Those companies who looked very early stage 18 months ago are now doing an incredible job hiring and staffing up and working with all sorts of service providers. So I encourage you, if you want to get an early jump on the next generation of great medtech companies, come partner with us at Ignite. We'd love to work with you. And just to remind you, our next cohort is March 15th. That's when we're going to start the application process. Okay, we are at 12:25, and I get to announce now the winners of our sponsor winners. And these companies will receive in-kind services from our sponsors, and afterwards they will go ahead, and our corporate partners, and afterwards they will go ahead and we'll put you guys in touch to begin that process. For the winner of the Alira Health Award is Cellens. Congratulations to Cellens.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Alira Health and David Ufer.
The winner of our Boyd Technology.
Consideration of how to choose this last couple.
Good question.
I mean, I know Cellens, just from what they shared, they've received a couple of awards already. I think it was $100,000 in awards for just last year, never mind a few $100,000 from, I think, some federal organization in the last couple of years. So you're right. I think they have provided a little bit of, a little bit of acknowledgments already. I don't know about the other company you mentioned.
Yeah.
Were you talking about
any questions? Sorry, just want to make sure. Do you guys have any questions while I'm listening in? You're good. Okay, good.
I mean, funding for Beacon, it's largely been grants. It looks like they've gotten a number of them, and now they're, as she said, raising $2 million.
They're right in Medford too. That's cool.
I'm not sure what you guys thought about the one with the filter, but I think that could be really, I mean, it's very different in terms of not going directly to the customer, but it is such a huge problem. And if in fact people have not tried to fix this for a while, I think that could be pretty slick, and it's kind of nice to reinforce the improvement of existing things sometimes, if in fact you're using real hard science to get at it, as opposed to some of the more cocktail party type of things where people are, yeah, I'm always frustrated by this and whatnot. So I thought that was pretty worthy, but maybe I was close to it because I was their judge.
I'm gonna give you guys like a 1 to 2 minute warning until we have to vote. If it would be helpful, I think I can tell you a few of the things that kind of came up in our discussions too, that we had questions about, and perhaps to think about. Nicole's technology, we're not sure about IP and getting it out of that system. That could be something to think about, and I don't know if anyone had questions about it. I think really like Srikar's opportunity and technology. He's grown a bit and has won a number of competitions, but I think they all are very promising. I think they all did a great job. So I think it really just comes down to a gut. Who do we think could use the money right now? And this is just going to be a stepping stone for them. Want to do a quick
in this program. So, that kind of wraps up my soliloquy.
And it looks like the judges are back with Rachel.
All right. So
I think we actually need one more minute. Just sorry, give us one more minute.
Sorry about that.
One more minute. Have I told you the story about?
Hey, Brian, can I jump in and help some airtime?
Sure, please.
I just want to thank you, Brian. I think that you make it sound like it was an easy thing to launch or relaunch this program. And I think we all.
That's supposed to happen. Great technical difficulties. Okay, so I think we now have another minute or two to take I would say a gut check vote. So what are our thoughts?
I think we all
nominate Cellens for first place.
Cellens?
Yep.
Okay. And who do we think for the second place?
I like Beacon.
Yeah, I'm biased, but the IPA I think is a valid point. I've heard it comes out of Harvard, right? They can be difficult from what I've heard.
I think but you know, anything can be figured out.
Is it Vice or Harvard? Is it the Vice Institute or?
It's a good question. I'm not sure who actually owns it. So it was created at the Vice Institute. So I don't know. We did have one startup last year who had a similar arrangement, and that moved forward pretty well.
Yeah, I think Vice does a good job with IP. I don't know if Harvard, I dealt with their tech transfer office, but I know a lot of good stuff is coming out of Vice and getting good licenses. So yeah, cool. Yeah, so I'd say that's a good second for Beacon. So I think we're good.
You guys are amazing. Thanks. Now I'm going to put everybody back in.
All right, cool. Thanks, Rach.
Thank you.
We have a really hard decision to make. As I was listening, Rachel and I were texting each other going, geez, I don't know how you're going to pick.
The six-way tie, Brian, so prepare.
Six-way tie, okay. Peter's back, so I know one of the judges is back.
I can see Rachel. Yeah, Jeff.
I am, but I think we have come to a decision, but I didn't know if you wanted me to make that decision or make that announcement, or
I do.
Ryan, if you'd like to.
Please,
and I can...
no. Take it away.
Go for it. You were in the room.
Okay, I was in the room where it happened. So thank you all again. This has been just a wonderful experience. I have to thank our judges because that was not an easy debate to go through, and so many wonderful things to say about all of you. But we do have some announcements. So I would like to announce that our second prize cash winner is Beacon Bio. So congratulations, Nicole. Well done. You did a fantastic job. We're so thrilled to have you as a part of this cohort. And so our grand prize is all that's left. And this is the big moment. I won't delay it any longer because we're over time. The first prize winner goes to Cellens.
Oh.
So well done, Jean and team. Thank you so much for being a part of the competition.
I don't know what to say. Thank you guys so much.
Great job.
Yeah. Here's my co-founder. Egon, you wanna just say, because I cannot say anything right now. Just.
No, it's a really great, and thank you for encouraging us, because always, no matter how successful we are, any normal person hesitates, and getting some external kind of recognition that we are on the right track is really important, in particular these early stages. And we really hope that everything will be fine, and actually we'll do that, because indeed it will. It seems so simple when it works, and hopefully it will relieve a lot of stress from patients, because this is really ugly cancer. Originally, idea was quite different. We were trying to attack like cervical cancer, but then coming to doctor, they said there is much more kind of severe need, and that's how we actually came to this idea. So hopefully, like it will work, and we hope to make this world a little bit better.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of the mentor, judges, and sponsor. beyond our expectation. We'll promise to make it work. Next time when we come back, we'll share more about the progress of Cellens. We're definitely gonna bring this technologies to a reality, and thank you so much for all of your support. Yeah.
You're very welcome, Jean. Thank you so much to all our participants, all of our corporate sponsors, all of our steering committee, and all of our mentors for all the work you've done. Thank you to Helen and Rachel for all the incredible work you're doing with this program. And most of all, thank you to the founders for taking the leap into entrepreneurship. It's a really hard journey. It's a thankless journey so much of the time. So much of the great stuff that founders talk about all happens when you're looking back after you're very successful. The most important thing is that you take a chance and start. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.